So, Ben Richardson, you were taxed with a challenging job with Beasts of the Southern Wild in terms of lensing this thing. This is a movie where it's got fireworks in it, it's got storms, it's got night and day scenes, interior shots. Well, certainly, what was it like to work with the Hushpuppy gal? How do you pronounce her name again?
Quevengene.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Quevengene is really, she was the the catalyst for everything in the movie, really. I think once they completed the casting and they found Quevengene, when I first met her, it was a relatively early rehearsal, and it was her and Mr. Henry, who plays her father, and that was just, I could feel in that room just the sort of the charge of what was possible. It was a tiny little kitchen in a local community library, and I had a video camera. And we just let them play a scene out, and I tried some different camera angles and some different sort of lens lengths, and just sort of tried to explore, what the relationship between these two characters could be on screen. And it was really just as we sort of started to watch that footage back, and there were a few moments where you could just see that there was this absolute sort of it's just this magnetism, the quality to Quevengene that was going to anchor the film and anchor every part of it. And I realized at that point that was going to be, for me, photographically, that was also going to be my anchor for the whole film. I sort of built my entire shooting strategy around Quevengene, really.
How was she when you put a camera in her face?
I mean, she honestly, just it never crossed my mind that she hadn't done it 100 times before. She didn't ever seem fazed by that at all, and we spend a lot of time in the movie in a very sort of close proximity to her. The camera is typically following, behind or in front of her a lot of the time as we explore, and it really was amazing how effortlessly she just ignored the mechanics of the process. I tried to keep it as simple as possible. That was another sort of overarching principle, was to design something that was going to be adjustable and simple and allow me to just to engage with her performance rather than try and sort of steer her performance around the needs of the camera. I just wanted the camera to be able to be responsive to her, which is why we came up with this system with the Easy Rig, where I've got the camera just sort of at hip height, and it's not anchored in any way, so I could just stay really in step with her the whole time. But as far as her sort of interaction with the camera, it never seemed to cross her mind that it was an alien presence.
Yeah, because she's very defiant, at least as a character, and I did meet her a few months ago in Los Angeles, and she's a little spitfire, of course. I could just see her saying to you with the camera, "Get that out of my face."
Yeah, no, absolutely. It never, it was just never that way at all. It was just she just had this real sort of clear and simple understanding of what the movie making process was in a way that was remarkable for her age and experience.
There were some artistic choices you and Ben made in scenes like, for specifically the hurricane scenes, where you're seeing this event, this storm, on the faces of the characters instead of the traditional scenes of where there's a lot of action outside, and that's a dramatic choice made that I think it really pays off, because I internalize that experience as a viewer, and it's very wise, empathetic filmmaking. Was that made simply because it's cheaper to do a scene that way?
It was, yeah. It's a tough one. It was. I don't think it necessarily was. We definitely had the opportunities to go wider, and we did definitely explore some wider frames sort of as we were shooting the movie, and there were certain times where there would be a reasonable amount of energy would go into finding a frame that would reveal the world. But the more time we spent in Hushpuppy's experience of the film and her experience of the story, the more we realized that those things were not relevant to the story we were trying to tell. They weren't relevant to the film we were trying to make. It was not a film where there ever was a kind of wide, objective, feeling of the space. The experience of the storm is just that. It's Hushpuppy's experience of that storm. It's Hushpuppy's being enclosed in this tiny little space with just the noise and the water, and the rattling, and really that's the only way she's going to see any of it. That's the only way she's going to feel it. So to spend all that time in her space, and the few shots that are away from her or from Wink are very much just kind of aiming for the details, the little tiny tactile things that really when you're in those kinds of environments, when you're in those kinds of moments where it's a scary or an extreme experience of some kind, you do zone in on little things. I don't think you really do go wide. You know, you don't see a totality. You're experiencing, you know, the drips off the edge of something, or the, you know, the little details that make it what it is. So that was it. Ended up being very firmly a sort of stylistic decision.
There's a brutal honesty to this movie that I think is one of its brave aspects. For example, the ending, without spoiling it for people who haven't seen the movie, it's not necessarily a happy ending. It's certainly ambiguous, but we get a sense that you know, she's not going to end up on Park Avenue someday and in the arms of a white knight. That she's very probably going to end up living a life much like the people around her, and that is, on one hand, she celebrates it. And so the harsh reality of this movie is making us celebrate it too. This musical score just pulses through the movie and leads us emotionally, as does the production design and the cinematography and all of these elements that create this world. But in the end, she celebrates the world in a way where we're thinking, this is a horrible place, but not to Hushpuppy's eyes, is it?
No, and I think that was a big part of the draw to the story for me, and the draw of working with Ben and the Court 13 Collective, and just the whole way of both the process of storytelling and the kinds of stories. Because I do believe, and the reason I was interested in the story so much was it is about looking at the reality of your life and making decisions that you can control. You know, you can control those things. You can be brave. You can be strong. You can make, you know, it sounds hokey, but you can make the most of what there is. You know, you can make the most of the friends you have, of the places you are, and you fight for those things. And I think at the end of the day, you know, it's not certain where Hushpuppy's going, and it's not certain what the end of it is, but you're not afraid for her. You know, you're not afraid that she's, you know, going to be out of control of these things. She has faced, you know, really the worst things, you know, a child could face at that point, and she's still strong. She's still going to, you know, walk forward into life and you know, just stare it down.